4th, 2025 Planning and Oversight Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Present.
Mr. Albright.
Here.
Mr. Arnold.
Here.
Ms. Banks. Ms. Bell.
Present.
Ms. Carter. Ms. Crockett. Dr. Elhai.
Here.
Ms. Friedman. Reverend Gordon.
Present.
Ms. Harding.
Here.
Ms. Howe. Mr. Lambert. Ms. Mendoza-Locke.
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Salas.
Here.
And Major White.
Here.
Quorum present. Recognition of visitors, please. Thank you. Welcome on. All right, our first item on the committee is minutes are the meeting minutes for October 7th, 2025. Everyone had a chance to review. Comments? Additions? Ready? All roll. Wait. Motion to accept.
All motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor of accepting the minutes into the records, please acknowledge.
Aye.
You're opposed, please acknowledge. Hearing none. Report. Treasurer's report for September fiscal year 26. Amy.
I'm Amy Tuckemeyer, Assistant Director of Finance. I'll be presenting the Treasurer's report today. I'm going to start with the statement of revenue and expenditures, which is on page 8. September was a fairly typical month for us. Revenue-wise, in September we received some trailing levy funds early in the month, along with our regular quarterly federal and state allocations. Federal's fiscal year to date levy appears under budget at the end of September by $693,000, which is due to the timing of the receipt of funds. We received some more levy funds in October in the amount of $844,000. Federal fiscal year to date, federal and state revenue also appear under budget at the end of September. And that's due to the timing of some of our grants, which will catch up over the remainder of the fiscal year. Miscellaneous revenue is currently over budget federal year-to-date, fiscal year-to-date, because the budget for the construction of Danny's Place was spread over the course of the project, while actual draws occurred as project expenses were paid. Jenny spoke about this timing difference when she presented the fiscal 2025 year-end treasurer's report. Expense-wise, in September, we issued the second round of payments from our fiscal year 2026 purchasing plan. And expenditures remain under budget in most categories, primarily due to the timing of the receipt of our invoices, which is fairly typical this time of the fiscal year. I expect expenditures across all of the categories to align with the budget as the year progresses. Overall, we saw a decrease in net assets of $1.8 million during September. On the balance sheet, which is on page 9, cash decreased by approximately $1.4 million. Both accounts receivable and accounts payable decreased as accrued transactions from fiscal year 2025 year end were processed in September. And the non-designated fund balance at the end of September was $21.2 million. Payment details can be found on pages 10 and 11 in And there's a motion on page 7.
Amy, quick question. Again, on the expenditures with the pass-through grant program, again, I assume it's a challenge because of the fact that some of those grants are on calendar years versus fiscal year. Part of the issue or what?
No, they're on the state calendar year or the state fiscal year, and it's just the timing of this, when the agencies draw the funds. And we just haven't seen any of them in the first quarter of fiscal 26.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, there's a motion.
Move to accept.
Second. All right, properly moved in second. Again, any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed. Moving on to the Lucas County Trauma Informed Care Fiscal Agent report, and that would be Elijah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here you'll see a request to become the fiscal agent for the Lucas County Trauma Informed Care Coalition. So this coalition has been active in the community for the past 10 years, and it is really a community-based coalition. We have active members from board trustees, Dr. Alhai is an active member, board staff are members, and it's consists of a lot of different community partners. There is a larger collaborative known as the Northwest Ohio Trauma Informed Care Collaborative, and the state department has been allocating money to that collaborative for the past several years to do some trauma informed care work in the community. This year they issued an RFA to all the collaboratives in the state to apply for funding to continue their work. Previously they just allocated money to these different collaboratives in the state. There's 6 of them. The Northwest Ohio Collaborative was awarded funding, and they chose to partner with some of the local coalitions in the Northwest Ohio region. So instead of just the collaborative doing work, they're going to continue their work, but also the local coalitions like the Lucas County Coalition is going to continue their work. So they wanted to include us in the application and give us some funding to do some community trainings and have a large awareness event. So within the application, they're allocating $4,500 to the coalition, and the coalition needs then a fiscal agent to receive the money from Hancock County, who was the lead applicant, the Hancock County Board, and then make the purchases on behalf of the Lucas County Trauma Informed Care Coalition. So there'll be about 3 community-wide trainings that over the next year, and a kind of awareness event to raise awareness on trauma-informed care and the prevalence of trauma in the community. So this motion is to that effect, to accept the funds from the Adams Board in Hancock County and serve as the fiscal agent. And you can see that on page 12.
Elijah, and I hate to be always asking these questions that I should know the answer to, but I do understand the definition of host. But when you're saying hosting, are we actually just hosting by being the agent, our name out there, or will we be responsible for venue and things of that sort?
Yeah, so we'll be working with the coalition to identify the venue and the speaker, and then using this money to pay for those as well. So this is really consistent with our larger kind of strategic goals around raising awareness of trauma and trauma-informed care in our community as well. So I think this really aligns with the work of the board. It's just a different funding source that we can partner with.
And our staff would be conducting the training.
No, we'll we'll be finding some experts to bring in trainings, and the coalition will be part of kind of helping pick out topics and speakers.
Thank you.
I think it speaks well of Lucas County and their training that Hancock County said Lucas County helped support and host this, so I think that's very good.
Yeah, the coalition has been, our local coalition has been a kind of an example to other areas in the state on our continued work. Having, we just celebrated 10 years this year.
A motion to approve.
Second. Properly moved and second. Additional comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's a semi-formal structure. Who are the members that make up this coalition?
Yeah, so the membership is made up of just kind of regular attendees. So we just had our coalition meeting today and we had about 35 people on it. We have an advisory board structure, which includes Dr. Elhai, myself, two individuals in private practice, someone who works for the YMCA and another individual who works for TPS.
Thank you.
Properly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Health officer designation. Elijah, please.
So at the bottom of page 12 and the top of page 13, you'll see the motion for health officers this month. We have 2 new applicants and 5 renewals. You don't see the demographics this month. We just recently reported on those and we'll be planning to report again probably in January with updates. Our providers still continue to work through getting people through the gathering information as part of the application. So, you know, there's references they have to provide and get a background check and stuff like that. But we do have some in the pipeline. It's just kind of a timing of when we meet and have to present the motion.
I have a question. Two words stood out at me, and I'm sure this has been already debated. Can you define custody? What is custody, and also thought to be mentally ill? So, because those two, well, custody raises a whole bunch of issues for me. The thought to be, I'm sure there's subjective criteria and all of that, so.
So custody, this is actually a word that comes out directly from Ohio Revised Code, but it doesn't really define what it is. So we interpret custody as just someone being with someone and writing the pink slip. Our agencies are able to hold people there against their will. If let's say they're at Harbor, for example. So as part of the regular services, if someone was deemed, needing hospitalization against their will, Harbor would then, a health officer at Harvard would then write a pink slip and try to facilitate the transportation to a hospital. If the person chose to leave, which doesn't happen often, if they chose to leave, Harbor would then alert police to be on the lookout and take the pink slip somewhere. During this phase, there's that 24-hour period. If the person is found and located, then they would be taken to the hospital for further evaluation and possibly being admitted to the hospital.
And the other one thought to be mentally ill, does it have to be in a setting like Harbor, Unison, like that?
No, we have health officers who, particularly at Zeph Center through the crisis care, who go out to families' houses and assess. And if someone is deemed to be in danger and needing imminent danger and needing hospitalization, then they can write the pink slip and facilitate that transportation.
So if somebody's like in a house, and the behaviors of the health officer has that ability to say, hey, you know, get somebody else in here while we try to stabilize the patient or the person?
Yeah, so how it would probably look in the field a little bit is a family member has someone who might be acting erratically or very different from their baseline. So they might call Zeph Center and ask for them to come out and assess. Zeph Center then would go out. They would get some information over the phone, maybe, you know, are there weapons there? Are there safety concerns? And depending on this, they might get law enforcement there to meet them there for that. And then they'll try to do assessment. Sometimes it's a full assessment there, and they might determine that they don't need to be hospitalized. Doesn't mean they don't need like intervention, but they might not need hospitalization. If they do need hospitalization, then Zeph would then facilitate that, and the Toledo police have them maybe help them get them into a vehicle and follow them while they're going to the hospital to assist with that.
Okay, thanks, that was helpful.
Just a couple of clarifications on that though as well. The health officer's pink slip is a belief that the individual is in need of hospitalization and is actually subject to a psychiatrist's evaluation for that hospitalization.
And I'm sure those folks have been trained to, you know, for all the indicators, and it's not like, you know, I'm thinking about due process for the individual before you end up in some hospital.
There's an extensive training.
We have our health officers are required to have a license to practice at least 2 years of working with the SMI population. And then they have to attend a training that's done by Zeph Center to understand Ohio Revised Code, what to look out for. We, in Lucas County, we take health officers very seriously. Everyone is very concerned about people's rights. And there's been instances when people believe that someone should be hospitalized, but after the assessment, not saying that the situation wasn't, you know, concerning, but, you know, it was determined that they did not need hospitalization at that time.
Okay, good.
And I can say that I see this in action all the time, and our health officers where I work take it very seriously. It's not like people are not being pink slipped as a matter of course. It's a very serious conversation. That's interdisciplinary as well, so.
The lawyer part of me just, those two words like, whoa, whoa. But no, you're good, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Second?
Yeah.
All right, any additional questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Any abstentions? Motion passed. Zeph Center, value-based purchasing update. Elijah.
Yeah, so on page 13 and 14, you'll see it. We wanted to provide an update on our value-based purchasing project with the Zeph Center. You might remember this from a few years ago. TBD Solutions came and presented about value-based purchasing and the kind of incentive to have higher standards for prices. So we worked with them to adopt some measures, and we have been, for the past few years, contracting with Zeph through this process to report monthly on outcomes related to these measures. So you'll see here is kind of just an overview of fiscal year 2015 and where they fell. So there's different categories of these measures, and what you're looking at is we have the metric and then the target we're hoping they hit, followed by the range of what they've reported for the year. So we didn't want to provide you 12 Excel sheets of all this. So you'll kind of see kind of the range of like the bottom and top of where they reported. And then the results, or you know, if they met it each month or how many months they did or did not meet it. So these are there's a whole algorithm with these, so if they meet so many, there's an additional bonus. If they meet more, there's additional bonus, so there's levels of bonus included, baked into this. So you'll see, for the most part, Zeph Center has been doing very well with meeting these measures. You'll notice that there was no, we didn't have anything to report for the youth CSU. That's because it just opened last month. So we've been working with them for some time to get the youth CSU open. So in fiscal year 2025, they weren't able to meet any of those measures because they didn't have it. So out of the allocation of that $331,500, they received $234,995.25. So they missed about 96,000 just because, again, if they missed the measure, then the additional bonus wasn't available for that group of measures, and then they didn't have the ability to report on the youth CSU. So we've continued it into this fiscal year. So they've been reporting on these monthly, because of their ability to really meet these measures. We did work with them to provide some stretch goals. So some of these measures are actually higher for this fiscal year. These were high measures to begin with because, as Zeph has pointed out, this is just kind of their culture and quality of services they provide.
So, Elijah, where they're this position, why is that percentage so low? Same for the call abandonment rate.
So the call abandonment rate is like people hanging up because of like maybe being on hold or a number of rings. So we want that.
You want that?
We want that low. The disposition to hospitalization, there's a when we began the CPAS process, the community psychiatric process we did years ago, there was a high reliance on hospitalization as kind of the first entry. That's not considered best practice. There's different levels of care that Zeph offers, and from the 23 hours stabilization unit or observation unit where people can go onto Zeph unit, be observed for 23 hours, and then determine what is the best course of action. Because some people it might feel like a crisis right now, but given a nap, it might not be the same level of crisis. Also, they have the crisis stabilization unit for adults that can be an alternative. So we really value the lowest level of care possible. So instead of kind of determining hospitalization as just regular practice, we really want to incentivize, getting people in the right level of care at the beginning.
And so
Yeah.
for fiscal year 2026, I understood that based on these metrics, we've created a new set of agreed upon metrics that are a little bit more stringent or higher levels than these.
They're a little bit higher. And so you'll notice that some of these targets, they met 100%. And the range seems big for for example, 82 to 100%, but most of those were 100% they met. Now, we didn't go as far as making the targets 100%. We tried, but
Right.
because of the consistency we saw in the reporting. But we did look, take a good look at these and did raise some of them because we really value, these are the value-based purchasing about raising the level of crisis care in our community. And not just, they're gonna do good work. And they've proven the exceptional work they do.
And are these stats all self-reported to us?
Yes.
Do we do, just out of curiosity, do we do any checking on any validation of the self-reporting?
Yeah, so we do review them, and if some of them seem weird, we do go back and see what's going on. For instance, there was one month that they reported, the average, the average time to respond, to do a community response was 6 minutes. And it takes 5 minutes to get out of a building, and we're like, whoa, hold on. But they didn't include one of the things they needed to include, and then it jumped up to 45 minutes. So we do kind of go through these each month and make sure they're on track, and if something seems very weird, we will explore that with them.
But we don't have a way to independently collect that data.
What's the status of this program? Is it, are we prototyping it? Is it here to stay? Are we gonna roll it out to the other agencies? Where are we with it?
Yeah, I think that's a me question. So the internal staff discussions annually regarding the continuation of this revolves around prioritization of crisis services compared to the dollar amount of, funds that we have available. So it always ranks within the priorities of, okay, what do we want to accomplish? What's our strategic planning goals? And then what are the available funds? And as you know, over the last several years, we've made reductions to our system. So each year, as we begin the conversations about what we are going to continue to fund and what we aren't, we look at this and say, yes, this is a valuable project, but is it more valuable than name the program? I'm not gonna name a program because then everybody will go, but, so we always weigh it and compare it against what recommendations should be. I don't believe we're in a financial position to extend this to other programs at this point in time. There are way too many other things that could negatively impact our bottom line moving into the future. So I can say that we had a pretty robust discussion about continuing it in 26, which we're in right now, and we'll probably have that robust discussion internally about should this be continued in 27, given our financial position. So that's about as good as I can say.
That's helpful.
What is the monetary amount of the bonuses that we paid?
So for 2025, we paid $234,995.
In bonus?
Yeah, in that value-based.
And that would be bonuses to this agency exclusively. Again, my question would be, why do we need to incentivize entities to perform when that is something they should be doing anyway? Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, there are national initiatives around value-based purchasing. And so that was the recommendation from the consultant at the time. More and more managed care programs are moving to a more value-based model. And this was the adaptation of that for Lucas County around crisis services. And, we were kind of the more of the pioneer in our state around this value-based model. But it is, there is national precedent around this, especially in the physical health side of things.
We had quite a lengthy discussion before we as a board agreed to implementing this, as I recall.
There were 2 trainings that were presented on what value-based purchasing is, what are the differing models. Some of the models that you might be more, familiar with would be the at-risk model, where if you don't meet certain things, you end up losing money. go with that model. We went with a value-added model that did not put our provider at risk of losing funds in this circumstance. And I think, honestly, I think the results, while I understand why you say that, why are we paying somebody specific to do what what we expect them to do anyway, let's remember that this is some of the hardest work in our system. Let's start with that. There's a lot of hard work in our system, and there's a lot of good work being done. But I'd put this up against some of the most difficult to do, and for them to consistently meet or exceed, there's a lot of value in that. Also, I mean, while we don't ever talk about it, their ZEP's budget on these items incorporate board funding and Medicaid funding or third-party funding. They've not been able to reach their third-party Medicaid funding amounts over the last several years. And so if you would have this conversation with ZEF Center, they would say they are actually losing money on crisis services. And this allocation these earned funds help offset some of that.
I think another way to look at it is when we put this together, we are asking you to collect a lot of data, track a lot of information for us, and they've never had to do that before. So, we're now asking them to track almost every single thing that they do, which is a lot of time, it's a lot of manpower. So I think, in terms of yes, it's definitely incentive to take those marks, but it's also helped offset that additional time and, employment time that we're asking them to do. So we never expected that.
Yeah, if you recall, when we rolled this out, we actually did it in phases. And I think it was the first phase, or maybe it was the second phase, where we actually paid them specifically for reporting. So it wasn't tied to any of these, because they have to change their EHR, they have to change their workflow process. There was a lot of things that they had to do besides just do the service. And so we got to this, and now this is baked within their EHR and routinely presented to us, and Elijah's team evaluates this on an ongoing basis.
Are they required to use the extra funds for just crisis services?
This is you earned it, you use it however you want to use it.
Is it safe to assume that the threshold numbers that we put in place with them were equivalent to what our expectation is of providing excellent service? In other words, in order to get this bonus, they have to exceed what we consider to be excellent service, so that.
These targets are higher than our normal expectations. So
Okay,
we do
all right.
have our regular contract with Stated Metrics. Now, this is more robust than what we collect through
all
that,
right.
but yeah, it's definitely higher than that.
So if they met none of these metrics and received zero bonus, we would feel that they have provided us with the threshold of our expectations.
If they met the outcomes
Having met the,
established in their
having
current
met,
contract.
right.
All righty, any additional discussions, comments? All right, this is an action item, so this is not a non-actionable item, this is the information item, so we move on to the next piece. And that would be Danny's Place Administrator Contract Extension and Update.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Always good conversations around Danny's Place these days, but I do want to draw your attention to one typo in the write-up. My fault, entirely my fault, as a matter of fact. Does not impact the motion, But third line down, in August 2025, the MHRSB allocated $400,000, not $350,000. For startup activities related to Danny's Place, contracts was July 1 through October 31st. So Unison has been working towards opening Danny's Place. There are a lot of factors that go into that, notwithstanding one of the biggest is you gotta get the site certified. Unison does have staff on site working towards getting the place certified. And our design and the way we built Danny's Place and lended it to Ohio MHRSB certification relatively easily. So they did a pre-certification. There was only a few minor adjustments that needed to be made. But you can't get the official certification until you get the CARF certification, which is the Commission on Accreditation and Rehabilitation Facilities. And so you get that first, and then you get Ohio MHRSB to come in, or ODPH, to come in and then do your Class 1 residential inspection. That is all being worked out. It has to be scheduled. And they believe that they will have this in place along with sufficient staffing to open in February or March. The other complicating factor is we don't have I haven't been able to put a full operating budget together yet. Because the operating budget is more than just our contributions. It's the contributions from the other 10 board areas as well. And what they're able to contribute, what we all are able to contribute to open up Danny's Place was also somewhat, we were kind of hoping that it would be less and offset by what Ohio Department of Behavioral Health might be able to give us. We had some, what appears to be high hope now, that they would come across with some operating capital. That has not developed. So while, which means that the boards are going to have to contribute more if we are going to able to open Danny's Place with the staffing design in the proposal that Unison presented. I will just say our board, just speak for our board has set aside our portion of the operating at a sufficient amount in our forecast. So we're good. It's the other 10 board areas that make up the region that have some discussions that they need to do relating to can they do it. If they can't do it, then we will have to rethink who can make referrals into Danny's Place, because we'll have to expand the revenue. Right now, it's limited to the 11 board areas and patients from Northwest Ohio who are in a state hospital. If the 10 board areas aren't able to contribute the amount that we need in order to open up Danny's Place as proposed, then we might have to go out and find additional financial partners, which we can do. And we will be able to do that. But we wanted to give the local boards, the regional boards, the first options. So it's been a little bit of a slow grind kind of working through that process.
So it's not the crisis that it first appeared.
It's
because we
not,
have options.
no, yeah, there will be plenty of options. And we get one shot to do it right. We want to do it right. The other complicating factor is, all of our community behavioral health centers have a lot of experience recruiting and retaining employees. And I believe each of them will tell you, and Unison is in a good position to inform us on this. Recruiting staff members during the holiday, new staff members during the holiday season is a worthless endeavor. You simply pay for advertisement and you don't get the quality recruits that you want. So they're not that interested in going through that perfunctory exercise during the holiday season. So they would like to delay that as well. We're in total agreement with that, given the fact that the site isn't certified yet anyway. So I don't think in this case, it's no harm, no foul. We've allocated the 400,000. Unison is saying an evaluation of their expenses, they've only spent for July and August around $50,000. Now, we know that in September and October, they've spent more, but they're telling us that the original 400,000 that was allocated to them for startup will allow them to continue those startup activities through February, which we support, and will give us sufficient time to get all the operational, budgetary issues in place, and hopefully maybe clarify what the state might be able to give us, if anything. The state discussion around funding has further been complicated by Director Cornian from the Department of Behavioral Health leaving and Director Corcoran from the Department of Medicaid leaving. Those were the two people that were having these discussions about funding these facilities. And so those conversations need to reboot with whoever their replacements are. We know we have an interim replacement in DBH, but I don't know who the interim is at Department of Medicaid. So we're comfortable as staff making a recommendation that we approve extending Unison Health's existing Danny's Place administrator contract at its current funding level through February 28th, 2026, and allowing me then to execute the contract amendment. So I'll stop there.
So we're not talking about adding additional funds to this, it's just extending the contract from October 31st to the end of February so that they can, again, we've already set aside the $400,000, it's for them to utilize that $400,000.
And about 125 of that is state crisis funds. So I think that's about, I think give or take 125. Yes, sir.
So I wasn't part of the board at the very beginning when Danny's Place, I kind of came in will Danny's Place always rely on funding like this, or is there a dream that they will be self-sufficient and be able to not rely on funds from us and other boards?
So that there's always going to be a room and board charge. So the operating budget that we're putting together is a room and board charge. The thought is most of the residents, if not all of the residents, regardless of what county they're from, will be Medicaid, just given the population that we're working with, people coming out of the state hospital in particular. So the answer is yes, there will always be a room and board charge.
Any additional comments, questions? Motion to approve?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passes. Very good. Open session.
While Richard gets up, I'm gonna go first and Richard can come up and get ready. By statute, I need to inform you of something that occurred. If you hopefully most of you saw in the media where the mental health board partnered with Board of PD and CSB to provide funds to offset the losses in SNAP. We provided $24,000 in emergency, we provided $49,000 in funds. 24,000 of those funds were designated as emergency support funds. 25,000 of that came out of our existing budget in health equity. By statute and by our authorization of expenditures policy, I have that authority to make that $24,000 emergency allocation. Upon doing that though, my obligation is to inform you all that it was done at the very next meeting we have. So this is your notice that it was done and what was done. And then it will officially be in the minutes so that it documents what actually was done. And of course, before I did it, I actually talked to our board chair about doing it, just to make sure we're all in a good place. So that's all I needed to say on that. Thank you.
Going on at Government Center, I'm going to try and be brief. Tomorrow, City Council will meet. Normally they meet on Tuesdays, but since it's Election Day, just a couple of things. They will be allocating $397,000 to task. That's part of a 2-year agreement that is for case management services at Toledo Municipal Court. They'll be allocating $291,798 for the merger of Beach House and Family House. A lot of bickering today at county commissioners. Anita Lopez spoke passionately about the need to do something about the SNAP benefits. She wanted $1 million, and that's just not going to happen. That went down in flames. So she had her resolution, and then the 2 other commissioners had their resolution. They will allocate $100,000 in county funds to Islamic Food Bank and Connecting Kids to Meals. I'm quoting Pete Gherkin. $100,000 with a good plan is better than $1 million with no plan. They bickered about it. You'll see it on TV tonight. There was the news media there. And speaking of bickering, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Our friends at Children's Services Board, they need a new automobile to transport the kids that are in their custody. It's 21 years old. They used to have a Chevy Ventura. When they planned last year, they hoped to get 1 more year out of it. Not going to happen. This car has seen better days. So they need to allocate $49,000 as of 2 weeks ago for a Chrysler Pacifica. And at the last minute, they pulled it from the agenda. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the levy. They said, can we do this after the levy? So they did it today. Now, even though they're going to save $2,000 because the price is going to go down to $46,700, Nita Lopez just wasn't happy about it. She said that county agencies are not doing enough to obtain the low bid locally. And this is from Montrose Ford in, I believe, Akron, I'm not sure. But it's desperately needed, and so they approved that today. Speaking of Children's Services Board, they will continue their, whatever you call it, Child Protection Task Force, which has been meeting since June. They hope to have that wrapped up this month. Not going to happen. It'll be meeting until June of next year. And sometime next summer, a voluminous document will be presented to county commissioners with quite a few suggestions. I'm sure everybody's not going to be happy about it, but it's going to be a very large task force with a lot of different agendas saying this is how we think the agency should function. I did take the opportunity today, if you haven't seen this, on the front page of the Detroit Free Press, there is a heartbreaking article. Last February in West Bloomfield, Michigan, there was a tragic fire in which 3 children died. Now, the story is the middle child had severe autism and was a big danger to elope. This child has eloped many times. It's going so far as to try and climb out of second-story windows. So on the advice of a human service agency, they installed special locks which can only be opened from the inside with a key. The child in question did not know where the key was. The other two children did. And on February the 2nd, they had a fire and all three of them died. The investigation has been concluded. They will not charge the parents. That is a good thing because they did everything right. And they were not able to determine what exactly happened. But it's just such a splendid example of the agonizing choices that family members need to make when you have a special needs child. How do you weigh that child's safety against other children? And so, as it turns out, different human service agencies have different suggestions to families as to how to handle this. This is a huge problem nationwide. According to national statistics, last year, 82 children with autism died while eloping from their caregivers, most in traffic accidents, some drowning. But from one agency to the next, nobody seems to know what is the best way to protect a child with autism and any other special needs, and at the same time protect the other children. So I talked to both Mr. Muth at Children's Services this morning, and I talked to the county commissioners. Why doesn't Lucas County have some kind of a plan? What is the best course of action when you have a special needs child as far as protecting that child and your other children? I'm going to try and follow up on that. So, indulge me just for a moment. Okay, this morning, county commissioners heard the two last agencies for their budgets. It was Veteran Services and Destination Toledo. Both of them gave excellent presentations. Last week, it was both at the 11 and the 2 o'clock meeting. They had a bunch of other agencies. Everybody. And Anita Lopez did bring up, why are we doing this? We don't have any money to give them. It's basically just come in, give us a song and dance, and be told we expect you to submit a flat budget. Well, last week at 2 o'clock, the county prosecutor came for theirs, and I've never seen anything quite like it. Julia Bates got up. She had a presentation just like this thing here. You have a big screen. She started with all of her dogs, and she introduced all of them and what their names were, and she seemed to think that the county commissioners would be interested in that. She went on to all the places in Toledo that she really likes to go, and she even included that 11 years ago she had a hole-in-one while shooting golf, and she made sure that the picture of the plaque was there. And she talked to all the people in the audience were just staring at her. And then she moved on to some things she didn't like, and this is nostalgic, the old home of the Mental Health Board Children's Service. The county commissioner spending $450,000 on new windows because it's not an option just to let it deteriorate. Pretty soon, with those windows, it's probably going to fall on someone's head. And then, in my opinion, she crossed the line. And as she stood up there asking for money, she put this on the screen. On the left is the man accused of killing Kamani. And on the right is the man who walked into a bar, tried to shoot his wife, but the gun jammed. Both received significant media attention. Let me be very clear about something. If she wanted to put pictures up there of people who had been convicted and say, look at the great job I'm doing, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I had a big problem with this. I saw the county prosecutor stand up there heaping praise upon herself while behind her are the picture of two men, both of whom have significant mental health problems. The man accused of killing Kamani, when asked by the judge, said he suffers from schizophrenia, bipolar attention deficit disorder, anxiety, depression. He just went down the list. And the other one was referred for a court evaluation. It seemed to me this was wrong from both a legal standpoint and from an ethical standpoint. The implication was, if you don't give me more money, I'm not going to be able to prosecute these. And here's what I was thinking at the time. Boy, am I glad that across the hall right now at City Council, they're having a meeting of the agenda review. And it gave me an excuse to get up and walk out because I just felt sick watching this. I had every intention to stay to the end of the meeting and then go to City Council, but I didn't. And I've discussed my concerns with both City Council and County Commissioners. This was just wrong. This says something about the uneasy relationship between the mental health system and criminal justice system. But just to see these men up on the screen, and it seemed to me like she was exploiting the death of a child. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but fortunately, these budget hearings are now over, and so the county commissioners, Pete Gerken usually says the same thing at the end of every, we're not going to make that choice today, but almost all of them asked for significant increases because the cost of business is going up. And we know the ARPA monies are all gone. We're going to have some tough times at the county level. So that's my editorial opinion. Thank you.
Seeing no further, meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.